Hey yogis, welcome back to another episode of How Yoga Changed My Life. Today, Adrienne and I interview Justine. We hear a little bit about her story, how she found yoga, and then how she is finding herself again through her personal practice and teaching practice. Before we get started, we wanted to ask you for a little bit of help. We're wanting to do an episode where we share stories from our listeners, and this first one is going to be around the theme of yoga changed friendship. So if you have a friend that you met through yoga, we would love to hear about it. Write into us at yogachanged@gmail.com or yogachanged on Instagram, and we're going to begin compiling stories until we have enough to make a whole episode about how yoga changed friendships for you. We're super, super excited for this. We think it's going to make a nice, fun, one-off episode. Let's go ahead and jump in and hear from Justine.
Hi, my name is Justine. I am from San Antonio, Texas. I grew up in the south side of San Antonio where there is mainly Hispanics. I had I would say a rough childhood as just growing up, on my own and trying to figure everything out on my own. Once I got 18, I joined the military, which is the Navy. I went into boot camp, graduated boot camp, and then got stationed in Japan. For about 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I want to know, when you said you grew up on the south side of San Antonio, for those of our listeners that aren't familiar with San Antonio, you said it's a mostly Hispanic area of town.
Yes, ma'am.
What about the schools and like the parks and the yoga studios and all that beautiful coffee shops and, white privilege bullshit?
I would say it doesn't exist in south side of San Antonio.
Right.
Especially when I grew up. There was more of just Hispanics. You don't see other diversities. We also didn't have any yoga. No yoga studios in the south side. Fitness wasn't a big thing. We don't talk about nutrition. High school was just a gateway to college, I guess. In a way, yeah.
So you enrolled in the Navy.
Yes.
You went to boot camp. What was that like? Where were you stationed for that?
In Chicago, Illinois.
That's where I moved from.
Yeah. So it was pretty intense just being away. Because I grew up really fast and I was around my family a lot though. I was always around them. So I didn't really get to experience like life away from my family. That was my first time away. So it was pretty hard at 18.
That would be hard.
Yeah.
Especially in Chicago. Chicago's a big city. The weather's horrible compared to San Antonio.
It was super cold, which I'm not
different.
used to in Texas.
Totally different kind of cold too.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us about the first time that you've gotten to an introduction or your first time practicing yoga. How did you start? What's your yoga origin story?
I would say in Japan, when I had a time where there was a group of friends, one of them knew about yoga and she wanted to teach us on a field in near our base. And so we decided to hang out on the field and she taught us yoga. At that moment, around that crowd, I wasn't really big in it, but I did love the space that I was in. I mean, I was in Japan and then doing yoga. So it was pretty cool. When I got, but that was like 6 years ago.
Yeah. And what was that like? Was it like a bunch of people doing it all together or was it like a small group of people?
At that time, it was just my close friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was kind of intimate and it was like more comfortable what we were doing. And like, it was kind of a safe space for me just to see how yoga was. Like
accessible and feeling like safe and not like, what did you think about yoga before you experienced yoga?
I didn't really know about yoga at all. Yeah. I didn't know in like stretching was so important or like just being flexible was important. Being present, I didn't know anything about that. It's like, cause I was in a fast pace my whole life, especially in the military, everything's go, go, go. So
what's your specialty in the Navy?
I was a bosun mate, which,
I watch Below Deck, all the Bravo shows, so I know bosun.
I don't, so go ahead.
Bosun mate is like a deck hand. So you do everything that involves the ship. You clean up the ship, you do maintenance on the ship, you do all the anchor drops, the line handling, Docking, yes. So I was on an amphibious ship, which handles all the marine equipment.
Ooh.
And so we had to do deployments with the Marines, and we take them to where they need to go for their missions. Because of that, we have to do a lot of helicopter operations, small boat operations, well deck operations, which there's a stern gate on our ship where we lower it, and then we allow small boats to go in and out.
Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh. What was the name of the boat you were on?
Germantown.
Oh, wow.
USS Germantown.
That is so cool. Like I
Shout
have
out.
this, like, exactly. Shout out to the guys and gals on the Germantown.
Yes.
So that to me is so cool because I just find anybody who puts their life on the line for us, whether you're police or you're military or you're, active duty, whatever it is, I'm fascinated. Like I love all of this stuff. So it's interesting because growing up, you heard nothing about yoga and then you found it when you were in your late teens, early 20s, probably, right?
Yeah, 19.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. So then what happened after that? When did you go back to yoga?
When I would say about a year ago when I started like focusing more on my transformation and my healing journey, I was big already in fitness and I wanted to be able to get closer to my spiritual side, which I believed yoga is something that would get me closer.
And so tell me, I was going to say, go back for a second to, so you're in the military, you were doing your service over in Japan. So when did you come back to San Antonio?
In 2018.
Okay. And then you've been stationed here?
No, I actually got out. So I got kicked out of the Navy.
Oh, what'd you do?
I fought. And I gained a lot of leadership at a very young age. So I didn't really know like the responsibilities that I had at that time. And I know as a leader at 21 and being almost E5.
What's E5 mean?
So it's the ranks.
Okay.
It goes to E1 all the way to E9.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you're pretty high up there.
I was, yeah. And so they really, wanted a lot from me and I didn't know exactly what they needed and what they wanted. And I had a lot of responsibilities, but when I went out off the ship and into like where the bars are at and like, off base, I started drinking and I started just drowning my emotions and everything with alcohol.
Yeah, most people do.
Yeah. And then it took a toll on me. And so I got in trouble multiple times. So it was just a lot of misdemeanor, like misconduct stuff.
Right.
Then it ended up with me getting kicked out.
Okay.
So
And then brought you back here.
yes.
And that brought you back to your mat in some way, shape, or form.
Exactly.
Yes, so it brought you back to your mat. You're searching for that aspect of spirituality, different type of fitness. What did you find when you found your mat again?
Ooh. I would say myself. I didn't really know myself.
Yeah. And who is yourself?
I know it's scary.
You can take a few breaths if you need to. Yeah.
And it's okay to be emotional about this because this is it. You're not taught how to be yourself and own your body and own how your emotions handle you. So this is a good thing because when you're leaning into the things that make you uncomfortable, that's just pushing you further along your road.
Yeah.
Very
true.
So let's go. So when you came back to San Antonio, did you go to a gym first? Like what was your first experience back with fitness?
So when I came back to San Antonio, I took it really, really hard. I started drinking more and I basically almost killed myself with all that. I didn't have no purpose anymore. I felt like I didn't have any purpose. So it took me a while. During COVID, I felt like that saved my life with the quarantine because I was within myself at home. And so I really got to like really know myself within that.
Were you quarantined alone or did you get to quarantine with your family? I
quarantined with my sister.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah. So yeah, it was good because I wasn't alone. So, so I had started working out at home during quarantine and then, I started getting a gym membership, got into, Planet Fitness, and then just really focusing on myself physically. And then I saw how good it helped me, or how much it helped me. And then I decided to up my membership in like studios and stuff, and really invested in myself. And I found a studio that has yoga. And since then, a year ago, it changed my life.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, it's interesting that you say that COVID saved your life. You know,
it did.
the quarantining part, because a lot of people, we've talked to some people so far that have said the same thing. Like they found community actually during COVID alone, but online community, you know, or trainings and such. That's incredible, because being able to, especially be in a situation where you were so down in the dumps and you were going through so much, and you know, alcohol and late nights and being out was fueling all of this too. You were kind of on that spiral, but then COVID happened.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that change, right? You said you found yourself, you saved your life. Tell us about it. What changed?
Well, I found a leader in me.
Yeah.
I definitely found the leader in me. The responsibilities that a leader has, I found within myself.
Tell me more about that.
Just taking initiative, and also allowing others to do their, like, to shine their light. Because I felt like I always brought their light down.
And what's that look like?
Yeah.
Like, how do you bring their light out now?
Hype them up. I try to hype. I mean, no, I do hype people up. Or I just, I practice first. Like, I do everything first. I'm a role model. And
awesome.
I'm the oldest out of 9 siblings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they really look up to me.
Man, your family was busy.
Well, they're halves, and
Yeah, but still,
that,
that's a big family. That's
is
awesome.
big.
That's awesome.
You have that older sister, care everything kind of thing going on too.
I do.
then.
Yeah, for sure.
And my youngest is 6.
Wow.
So she really looks up to me.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, me and my sister are 8 years apart. And so she was like my world, my light, my everything. So I can totally imagine if I was 6 and that age difference, like the huge role model you are for her.
Yeah. And with her name's, her
can
name's
say her name.
Avery. Yeah. Her name's Avery. So I wasn't with her for her first 2 years. And it really took a toll on me because I didn't know her at that time. But when I saw her, when I came back in 2018, we had a moment where, you know, where those military members come home. It was exactly that moment. Like, I had went into the house and she was already like knowing that I was there. She had heard me open the door. She ran towards the door and we both ran into each other, but we got scared because we didn't expect each other to look at it, like,
Be there.
be there.
In that
Yeah.
way.
And then like we just stared at each other for like a couple of seconds. And then finally I grabbed her and I was like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
She was so small at that time.
I can't even imagine being away from family for that. I mean, I'm away from my family. My family lives in different parts of the world. Actually, my dad lives in Australia. My mom lives in Virginia. My brother lives in California. We're small, so that's all I got, you know? But having the roots and the community ties and having family, like saying like, that's all I knew. And then I went to Chicago and I was alone, you know, and you're in the military, which is a totally different, complex world to go into, and then leaving that. So did anyone go with you on this journey? Did anybody notice anything different about you when you started practicing yoga regularly?
My whole family.
Yeah.
I felt like but during this time, I isolated myself from my family because they are different, negative too, like in a way where it wasn't helping me grow into the person that I am now.
Do you think it was more about like not knowing than being negative, right? Like,
Yeah,
just
more
not exposed to.
Unaware of it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. So I don't take it hard or anything. Like, I don't ever blame anything on them or whatever, because I know that it's just growth that we all need.
Absolutely. Well, and like you said, you're a role model, right? And being a role model for your family too. It might not, and we both have experiences too with, well, at least definitely for me with family. It's like I became a yoga teacher and the first thing I wanted to do was have everybody that I knew practice yoga all the time. Be a yogi, come with me on your mat. And it was like, nobody wanted to come and do yoga with me. And it took years and years and years before some people just started saying, okay, fine. I'll come to your damn class. Oh, fuck it. I'm done.
Which you're somewhat there in your journey also. Like, what are you doing right now with yoga?
I'm currently in YTT in yoga training.
Nice. Tell us more about it.
Ooh. Well, it's definitely helping me get into my leadership skills more and also become one with myself, but also heal within it too. Like it's a big healing journey through it all.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
It feels like it's just learning yoga, right? I'm learning postures. I'm learning science. I'm learning, anatomy, physiology, but it's really a personal journey. And what has been like, have you had really good highs and lows? Like, what are some of your highs and lows that you've
During
had?
the training?
Yeah.
Well, it's always growth.
Yeah.
It's always growth. So I feel like that's a big high for me. Lows, I would say just being vulnerable.
It's hard.
It's super hard.
Is there any practices that you've picked up from teacher training? Like for me, journaling was one thing that I definitely picked up from doing teacher training. Have you noticed that you've picked up any habits or any little things that you've been able to kind of hold on to as like a talisman or a ritual or something?
Well, breathing.
Exactly.
I feel like I didn't really care for breathing, or I didn't really know like the intention behind the breathing, like pranayama and ujjayi and fire breathing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I wasn't really familiar with, and like I didn't see how important it was to practice. With that, I use breathing throughout everything now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like that is how you rev your engine, how you cool your engine down, how you rev yourself up. And we don't teach that. But God, if we could just teach kids how to breathe, no matter what school they're in.
Especially
So
during this
happy.
time with anxiety.
Exactly.
I feel like anxiety has been huge right now
Exactly.
after COVID.
Yeah. So how do you use breath every day?
Well, I wake up and I do, I have like a morning routine where I get ready and I look at myself in the mirror. It's kind of like a more affirmation type.
Love it.
So I focus on my breathing during that time, but I also do 20 minutes of daily meditation in the morning as well. So I'm practicing more on the ujjayi pranayama because it's more deeper and it helps me be more present into the meditation.
That's my favorite when I first started too, because that breath is so fiery, but it's noisy. So it's something you can do throughout your day. And for me, like I suffer with ADHD, right? And anxiety and all those things. So for me, that breath, and I'm assuming for you too, because you are a fiery personality, right? You have this like drive and this determination and this leadership about you that I think having that ability will be good. So did you find that like you tried any other breath work that may have not benefited you or that you didn't like?
Well, I wouldn't say that. I would say I really want to try fire breathing, but I'm kind of anxious in doing that because I feel like in a moment where you continue to create that heat and that breath, I feel like I get scared to enter that moment.
Give
of
our
fire
listeners a little bit more on the fire breathing. What is the practice like for you that you know?
It's a faster ujjayi pranayama, but deeper as well. So you're constantly just breathing in and out through your nose.
Fast and fast and fast. Yeah.
Keep going.
Yep.
And you don't stop.
Yeah. And have you practiced other types of pranayama through your teacher training, or did you just start doing pranayama stuff like kind of on your own or before teacher training?
Well, I would say because it's helped me so much during training because it, like as a leader, you have to learn how to do a sequence for others and you got to add those inhales and exhales. And for me, at first, I was like focusing on just the poses, but you also got to tell your people to like also breathe. And so it helps me be more empathetic with others and really like
that.
And really put them first.
That's awesome. So I'm hearing these changes that have happened that, empathy, this leadership, this stepping into yourself. And so obviously there's been a lot of change that is created, but has it inspired any other changes in other areas of your life?
Yes. I always felt like I was going to be something big or I am going to do something big in life. And I feel like yoga is definitely an impact that I could, a practice that I can impact others. So I honestly just think it's bigger than me. It's a purpose that I just gotta accept and believe in, and just put trust in the higher power, and just allow it to just flow, I guess.
And what do you want to do with it?
Impact people, help them change their lives, transform.
You've told us a little bit about it. Do you want to share with the podcast as well, kind of those plans you have?
Yeah. So honestly, it's my brand. My brand is Lucky Charm 210. Lucky Charm is the definition that I had created for myself, or for the brand. It's a person who creates charm within themselves to find the luck in their own life.
I love that so much.
Thank you.
Say that one more time.
A person with charm who creates their luck, or a person with charm who creates their luck in their own life.
That's really awesome.
Thank you.
Really
and then 210 because I'm from San Antonio, so I got to rep.
Yeah, exactly.
Southside of San Antonio.
Exactly. I'm a 404. I'm an ATL. I'm a 404.
What'd you say? Nothing. I just lost it. That was just so funny. I can't believe you. I don't know what. That was great.
I'm a 404. I got it. Ludicrous, man.
That was good.
I love it. Yes.
That was good.
Yep. Come to San Antonio. You'll get our culture and the 210.
Exactly.
For sure.
So tell us what you're doing now with your yoga practice. Like, how are you? Because I know we talked about, like, have you had like the aha moments in the practice? Like, okay, for example, if you're playing a sport of some sort and you get like the perfect shot or the perfect moment in a game or something, on the yoga mat, have you had like a moment where you're like, shit, I can't get crow, but that bitch just said, look forward, and now I can do it, right?
Yeah.
And you have those moments in class. You have any that you can remember off the top of your head?
Well, currently I feel like when I'm in the zone, I feel like I'm floating.
Yes.
And like, I'm really strong, and I'm like, my body's really heavy. So it's super surprising on like that. I feel that I'm floating like on my mat. And so when I get into that moment, I feel like I achieved a lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so saying the floating thing, and so are you more of like a strong, like, I want to flow, I want to sweat my ass off, I want to feel like I left like a puddle on my mat. And what about like the slower side, the restorative, the yin?
Like yin?
Yeah.
Yin really helps me with my mental.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm very on the go. My mind goes a lot. So like with yin, it helps me be present more, and also give the love to the parts that I need to give the love to in my body, because it's super tense and like a lot of hurt.
Yeah.
Gotta give it love.
Carry a lot.
Totally. So during your teacher training, have you had the opportunity to teach other people yet yoga?
Within my training group, yes. Yeah.
And how's that been going for you?
I get a lot of compliments, which it's positives and negatives, like highs and lows.
Yeah.
Because it definitely feeds like my confidence, which I don't have. So I feel like it's needed, where like when it comes, the compliments, I really definitely got to hear it and take them in, because like I don't give it to myself.
They're hard to accept sometimes.
I'm really hard on myself.
Yeah. It is definitely when you are actually a very confident person. I think that you are working on your confidence, and I think that that's like a lifelong journey. I mean, I'm almost 48 and I'm still working on my own confidence.
Yeah.
It's like to believe in yourself is important, obviously, but like what you're doing and your affirmations and the way that you're scheduling your days and your routine by incorporating yoga, that's going to help you along that way.
Yeah.
And what I'll say is I think this maybe is what you mean, Adrienne, is if you don't feel confident, know that was not our perception. Like, you come off very strong, very confident. You show up in a room, you are yourself.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the yoga and that's how we met you, and it was through that. But know that it's already shining.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. No, I am a person like I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. You are definitely.
I don't care if anything. Yeah. And
Well, you're definitely the kind of person that takes over your light when you come in. Like, we know Justine's here.
oh, thank you.
Like, that to me is a huge deal.
It's crazy.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And that is like you're talking about, like, I don't want to dim or dull anybody else's light. I want to help others shine brightly by
bright
modeling.
like a diamond.
Exactly. Shine bright. Exactly.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is. It's the confidence that I could do that for others.
Yes.
That's
What you're
light
working
bulb.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What do I always say stuff like if some student walk in and says like, I'm not flexible or I can't touch my toes. I'm like, oh, well, you can't touch your toes yet. But one day you may touch your toes.
Yeah.
So it's like in putting that extra little word in there for me helps a lot.
Well, words are powerful, so
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Justine, tell us, what can other people learn from your story? What do you want people to take from your story?
keep going. Don't give up. There's always light. It could be dark, but there's always light.
That's so true. That's so true. And we could follow you on Lucky Charm 210.
Yes, that's my brand. And then you could also follow me on my personal Justine_Lucky Charm.
Nice. Awesome.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for spending time with us, sharing your story. It means a lot.
It does. It means a lot. And I'm already churning about ideas for her bonus episode that we can do for you.
Thank you.
But yeah, sharing your story. Thank you for your service in the military. I'm sorry that you got let go. I don't think that is, I mean, if you're teaching people how to fight and then you tell them to get out because they're fighting, sometimes it's kind of shitty, but you know, it's a lesson learned, right?
Yeah.
It's not a reflection of you. It's just, it puts a lot on your shoulders, and sometimes it's more than we are able to carry.
Especially at 18, 20 years old. You're young,
Very young.
you know?
Yeah.
I mean, your freaking brain's not even fully formed till you're 25 for crying out loud.
Which was last year.
Yay.
Literally.
You're
Fully
a grown
formed.
up now. You're a fully formed
Heck
adult
yeah.
now. Thank God you got yoga in your body now.
I'm better.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
It was
Thank
awesome.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hey, y'all. Before we get started, I want to share this morning, Adrienne and I got to take Justine's class. So it was really cool as we are prepping for this episode. We're listening to her talk. We're listening to kind of where she has seen herself over the past couple of years and where she sees herself going. And this morning we got to see some of that come into fruition.
Yeah, it was really exciting. And, you know, just talking to her a few weeks ago and interviewing her and then seeing her get up today and how it's very inspiring to see someone stand up and do something that they truly love and they want to share with other people.
It is. And I think it speaks a lot to Justine herself. I think she said it a few times in the episode. She always knew there was something bigger in herself. She always knew there was something brighter. She always knew there was something in herself calling to her, right? She almost had this sense that she was meant for something greater, which was really impressive to me.
Yeah.
Because, like, to be on the journey that she was on, to kind of deal with those struggles of being away from family, of taking on leadership at a very early age, of being then kicked out of that leadership role and out of the Navy, having to kind of restart from the ground level with her life, like, that is a very rough path.
Yeah.
Right. And then to the whole time kind of have this feeling or knowledge or sense of, but there is something greater for me, is very impressive.
She blew me away with that. I mean, and she said, I always thought I was going to be something big. Like, wow, I have to remind myself every day that I'm not a shitty person, you know, that I am worthy, right? Like having that ability of feeling it. And it must have been a struggle too, because she was always with family, never really traveled. And then, like you said, going into military young, not having the support, being in a leadership role and knowing like, hey, I've got this inside me, like knowing that, but then never being able to really fully let it out. And she said that after she was, you know, left the military the way she did, that she felt like she had no purpose and she didn't know who she was. And it was the pandemic, the forcing her of staying home instead of going out partying and drinking all the time. She was able to find herself, quote unquote.
Right. And so that takes us to our theme, right, for our commentary today. We're It's interesting. It genuinely, Adrienne and I almost struggled for a little bit. Like we bounced around a lot of ideas.
Yep.
We were trying to figure out where we wanted to land in this conversation. And we kept coming back to Justine saying she knew she was destined for something greater, right?
Yep.
She knew she had greatness. And that was resonating. And we just couldn't figure out why or how. I guess like we were like pinging all around trying to land on something. And then it hit me, I think probably as I was reading, and I teach this all of the time, right? That in each of us, divinity already exists, that in each of us, we have this connection to our higher self already, but we have to recognize it in order to like tap into it almost. And that's a teaching of yoga, which is awesome. And so it's Sutra 1-3, and it states, "Then the seer abides in itself, resting in its true nature, also known as self-realization."
Yeah.
Which is kind of wordy, but that is explaining that the ultimate result of yoga is the discovery of one's true nature. And one's true nature is one of divinity. It's one of a higher self. It's one where you are in line with your core values and passions and interests, and you're living it to the fullest.
And in yoga, in Sanskrit, there's another word for it, and it's Atman, which means self or your soul, the very essence of your being, kind of your pure consciousness. So some people think of like, I really hate like the whole conversations over the past few years of people are like, find your authentic self, your true nature, live your best life. Like all of these kind of things. It's like, what the fuck does it actually mean? Because to me, it gets frustrating, right? Because I'm like, how do I find my true self? I thought I was right here, like, is there another version of me somewhere? Where does this thing exist? And I think the ego is kind of like our psychological self, right? That's where our emotions come from. That's where our perception comes from. What our true nature is what yoga is that interconnectedness, right? Of all being together in this journey, right? Like whether the energy of others always impact how you feel, right? Like you will always impact others with your energy, right? Scientifically proven there's a 4-foot energy wall or bubble around your body. So anywhere you go, any interaction you have, you're leaving or you're impacting that energy. So I feel like when it's true nature, it's like you're not a true asshole, right? Like, yeah, there probably is some people out there that may be true assholes and they can go live their best asshole self life. But I honestly feel like at our true nature is when we're like really open to being limitless with others and not putting restrictions on ourselves or like our abilities. When we feel an urge for something, like think about your life and like you've always had a drive to be a teacher, to lead people.
No, I haven't.
Well, no, but
no, I haven't. And I think, and here's where I'll interject. I think the reason,
because I always thought like the way your personality is,
I know,
I would totally think that you were like the one that was like, Julie Cruz director that made sure everything got done
and definitely a control freak. But I think
not in a bad way.
No.
Though.
And I think, and I can explain it in both one of two ways, right? Because what you were saying of like, how do I figure out my true nature? I think the reason Justine is perhaps feeling that she's stepping it into it now, the first 2 sutras talk to it, right?
Right.
It speaks to the fact of that we cloud our mind and we have this monkey brain, right? This monkey that's jumping from branch to branch, right? Or this drunken monkey that's been haunted by the ghost of a scorpion.
Wait, it's bitten by a scorpion and haunted by a ghost or something.
Yeah,
like
something,
that.
right?
Yeah.
So the monkey mind, right? But what that pandemic provided is a disconnection from everything, right? A disconnection from partying,
Totally
a disconnection
makes
from
sense.
these really negative habits. And so all of that dropped away from her and she was able to kind of see clearly, right? She was able to start seeing what she wanted for herself. And I think very similarly, I mean, Adrienne says, I've always had this calling to be a teacher. And that's probably the perception of in the time that you've known me. But
Absolutely.
I absolutely at no point growing up wanted to be a teacher.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
A veterinarian.
Did you really? Mm-hmm. I can kind of see that because you do rescue everything.
A veterinarian, a party planner, a wedding planner. So definitely, you know, very cruise directory, but but the calling to be a teacher did not come to me until everything I had at least worked for in college failed. I wanted to go to, and I also by the time I was in school, I wanted to go to law school. I wanted to manage campaigns. I had worked with multiple political candidates. I had worked for the state party. I had done tons of fundraising management, tons of financial management for political members in the state. I was like full gung-ho politic knee deep. And if you talk to anyone in college, it's like Mia knows when, where, how, why I can vote. Like, and like people text, when can I vote? Where can I vote? I was like, give me your address. Like, I was like, and then you need to go between these hours. And if you're in line, they cannot deny you. Like all these things,
awesome.
Right? I was gung ho, fully ready to have a political life my entire life. And wanted to go to law school, things of that nature. And it wasn't until, and this is just so lame. And so if you know me from college, like, you already know it's so lame. I ran for student body president. I had been student body vice president, and it's just like, and I say it's so lame because it's like, oh my God. Because it is. Just to be so entrenched in that can be so lame. But anyways.
I know what you mean, like from an identity standpoint.
Yeah. And also just, I mean, I took it very, very seriously. And there was a lot of power that those students had on my campus. And I think power for change and power for improvement of the campus. So, and I was just entrenched in it. And losing that election, my entire identity around this shattered. Within a day, I was fine. But because that identity is so loose and so pointless.
Because your true nature was like, fuck that.
Yeah. And what was awesome is one of my good friends had been asking me to sign up for yoga teacher training with him. And I was like, well, hey, I have time now.
Wow.
Like, we'll do it.
There you go.
And so then through the process of yoga teacher training, I was like, I don't want to keep living my life this way I've been living it. I did a really decent job at campaigning the 3 years prior. You know, I had worked on multiple like campaigns off of the university's campus. I was very prepared for this life that I had envisioned for myself. But it was so rooted in anger.
Yeah.
Like the reality is the political world makes me very angry.
It makes everyone, well, it makes me very angry.
Most people pretty angry. Yeah. But that was like my motivator, right? I'm angry about this injustice. I'm angry about these things. And that was my fuel. But that is just a nasty, nasty fuel. I told Adrienne the other day that like holding on to anger is holding on to a hot coal and expecting the other person to get burned. And that's just where I was at all the time. And yoga teacher training opened me up to this wider range of emotions. And that's when I was like, I'm not going to law school.
Yeah.
The things that would make me good at law, I don't want.
Makes you angry.
I mean? Yeah. The things, those just aren't qualities that I want to feed into. And so I was able to kind of recognize a different path or maybe my true nature, right? Like, and because I mean, I'm going to just toot my own horn.
You should toot.
I am a really great teacher.
Toot away.
Especially in the middle school classroom. Like I am very proud of the time I had in the classroom. I miss it immensely. But that would not have been possible if everything around me had not like, it's so dramatic, shattered, right?
Right.
Fallen away.
Right.
And so that is why I think it was possible, because it was not always my true nature. Or like, maybe it was, right? Maybe that's my true nature, teaching, leading, guiding.
Right.
I love yoga teaching. I love like yoga education, especially.
Yes, me too.
And so, and workshops, things of that nature. So that might have always been there, but I did not always recognize it. These things that we build up around ourselves, these identities that we build up around ourselves, they have to come down, the clouding of the mind. And one of the books I've read have called it dress up and charades. We like to play games with ourselves.
Yeah.
We like to pretend that we're all of these things that we're not. And maybe that's things for our kids or for our parents or for our community. We show up in a role in a way that they need us. And that's not invalid. They do need us to be these things, these daughters, these mothers, these sisters, these brothers, right? But that's not us.
No.
That's not my entire identity.
No.
And so until some of those things fall away, or until you can at least quiet them enough to kind of tap in with yourself, you cannot recognize your true nature.
Yeah.
And so that's something we'll look at in next week's episode, kind of how to dig deeper into the true self. But thank you, Justine, right? Like so impressive that you've always known you were bound for something greater.
Yeah.
You've always had that recognition of divinity because like Adrienne, I mean, since I learned that teaching, it's a constant reminder. It's why if you're in my class, you hear me say it a lot,
Yep.
right? This acknowledgement of these things that you want, that you believe in, that you need, they already all exist within you.
Mm-hmm. And it's true because, you know, we're just trapped in this idea that we can't control ourselves. We can't control our bodies, right? Like, oh, I got injured, or, you know, I got sick, or this person broke up with me, or, you know, I didn't get the job I wanted. It's like those things, yes, they are important for survival and for all of our needs, right? But at the end of the day, being able to kind of unbuckle yourself from these limiting beliefs, right? Like get yourself free of them, because it's easy to say, I can't do that. But it's also easy to say, I can't do that yet.
Even these deeper things that I would say are like almost internal insecurities. So I've told Adrienne that I felt like growing up, and also literally until teacher training, and in some way, shapes, or form to this day, I'm a very angry person. Especially, I wouldn't say I'm an angry person now, but I am quick to anger. Not always, right? And what's nice now is I can like recognize it a lot sooner and come down from it a lot quicker. I can apologize for it much easier. And so like even these internal things of like, oh God, I'm an angry person, or I'm an unlucky person, or I'm an anxious person, or like these things that feel very ingrained in us. It's not to say that they're not real. It's not to say that they're not true. But as you get to know yourself better, you learn to manage it and respond to it. And there are things you can change. Now, they're very, very deep ingrained patterns, right? So it's going to take some time to almost crawl your way out of those, you know, those trenches.
Well, my mother-in-law would say it's kindly frustrating, because you have to really understand that like your brain natural patterns are to find the worst case scenario and decide that you're an asshole and you won't be able to make it, and that you're always going to fail, because it's easy to have that mindset and not do anything with your life, right? But it's hard to say, no, that's not who I am. Like I'm allowed to be angry or feel angry, but I am not angry. There's a difference, right? It's the way that we speak to ourselves. So it's saying like, I feel angry. Where do you feel it? Notice where you feel it in your body. I usually feel anger right in like my gut. Like I get angry, I get this fire, and then it gets into my heart space, and then it usually comes out of my mouth in a really fucking rude way. And I've been over the years working on how do I listen, take in, and only respond how I think is going to best represent me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And so all that to say, the teaching here is that there is divinity within each of us. That's what yoga tells us. Each of us already has access to this higher self. It's a process, but know that in each of you, divinity exists, that in each of you, this connection to your higher self exists. It's a matter of tuning in, listening, and connecting with it.
Yeah, and it's like whatever you focus on, you become. So if you want to focus on all the shit that's wrong in your life, then that's what's going to happen. It's where you put your energy. It's where you put your mindset. And really like the divine and the divinity within us, the light that's within us is our passion, right? It's our true nature. It's what's exciting to you that drives you to make every situation or every space you visit a little bit better than the way you found it, right? That's showing yourself respect, right? Respecting the being within, not the body, not like Ram Dass and Becoming Nobody starts with like, we're all born into space suits, right? Like just like what you talked about, like we have these labels, we have these jackets or these space suits that we put on for what we think we should be or what others tell us that we are. But we're the only ones that can figure that shit out. And it's not about, a outside college degree or certification program or, therapy even. It is internal work that's done by sitting quietly, by learning how to react and respond to things that happen, the feelings that come up, where they come from, and knowing that they're not who you are. That's the hardest part for me. I get dragged down sometimes and I find myself going, oh, like, am I an asshole? Like I haven't called this person back. I've been really bad about like connection lately and communication. I've kind of pulled inward, and some people think that that's me pulling away, but it's really me pulling inside myself, right? To try to understand, there's always a shift and a change in life. Justine was talking about during the pandemic how she was trying to like incorporate an at-home workout, right? And she said now like she does affirmations in the morning and she does like a morning routine and meditation and those kind of things. And I think that to me, like that's very much a, best practice that all of us should think about doing is something small that can flip the narrative and make you kind of, like you said, the clouds are there, kind of brush the clouds away or, clear out the area, clear out the space so that you really can kind of feel what are the things that you love and what drives your boat, like what makes you excited.
And that's what we're going to dive into a little bit more next week. Next week, we have a journaling practice to kind of start clearing the space, clearing the identities, and really tuning in to ourselves. So look forward to that episode. In the meantime, as a reminder, we are looking to collect your stories of how yoga changed friendship. So maybe that's a friend you made in a yoga class, a friend who you brought to yoga and it changed a component. We would love to hear your story as we are starting to compile a listeners episode.
I can't wait for this. I'm so excited to get listener stories. So ensure that you follow us on the Insta or TikTok at Yoga Changed, hashtag Yoga Changed. Send us your emails, yogachanged@gmail.com. Yeah, I want to hear from you. I want to hear from our listeners about Yoga Changed friendship. What does that look like? Sweet. Well, thanks all for listening, and we will see you soon. Take care.
Bye, y'all.